Hello everyone, this is POW Ponder on Weather. In this update, we're going to be talking about a potential tropical storm that could form in the Gulf next week. So if you do like weather-related content, please subscribe to my channel as I will upload daily updates to keep you ahead of the storm. Good morning everyone, this is your Thursday, June 10th update. And today's question, I'd like to know, what is your most memorable hurricane or tropical storm, or if you've ever actually even been into a tropical type system before? Mine is actually Hurricane Alicia back in 1983 that impacted the Houston area. So definitely leave your comments below. I'd love to hear from you. So let's get right to it. What we're looking at here is the latest NHC forecast for this disturbance down here in the Eastern Pacific. They actually give it a 40% chance for tropical storm development over the next 5 days. This is essentially a broad area of low pressure that's going to be kind of meandering off the southern coast of Mexico. But there's general consensus that this will slowly drift northward in a northward direction and develop into potential tropical depression over the weekend or into early next week. So let's take a look at some of the guidance, what we're looking at. Here's the overall picture of what we're looking at this morning. So today we've got some bad storms heading off into the high plains. We've got this upper level trough that's been sending some serious flooding to much of Arkansas and Mississippi. They're getting inundated with some very heavy rain again this morning. But down here into the Central America, we've got that broad area low pressure. You can see all the lightning trying to fire. There's already some thunderstorm activity that's trying to enter into the Southern Gulf already. So there actually is an area of interest that's already sneaking into the Gulf of Mexico. So let's kind of walk you through the latest JMA. This is your Japanese model. I like this model. It comes out every Thursday. And so what we're looking at here is a lot of the blues. This is an area for the next 3 to 9 days, starting from June the 9th. This blue little bit promotes what they call upward rising motion air. The reds and the oranges depict your sinking air. So that's going to be very difficult for thunderstorms to rise in that type of atmosphere. But you can notice the area down here in the Central America. That's the area of interest that we're looking at. That's going to be sneaking into the Southern Gulf over the next several days. And if we take a look downstream in the latest 10 to 16, yeah, you can definitely see there's a lot of upward rising motion air in this same general area, but especially start getting into the Western Gulf. This little darker shaded area here into the Western Gulf, that is a signal that there could be additional upward rising motion air in that part of the Gulf of Mexico that's a little bit more susceptible for a tropical system to be forming. So if we take a look at the latest MJO, this is your Man-Julia Oscillation Index. This is from June 9th to June 23rd. What we're looking at here, we're in actually phase 7, and this is it's getting into more of what they call the neutral zone. It's going to be drifting into phase 8 and eventually go into phase 1 by the time we get into the middle of next week, as we go into late next week. Phase 1 is a pretty active phase for tropical storm development, and I highlighted the area out here, what phase 1 would look like this time of year. And it's got a lot of instability along the coastline and some cooler temperatures, basically signifying that there could be a lot of moisture in the atmosphere and a little bit more susceptible for tropical storm development with this MJO into active phase 1 by then. So let me walk you through and how this is actually going to take shape. We do have that that trough that's swinging across right now. This is a map between the next 6 to 10 days out. Okay, so right now we've got a ridge of high pressure that's going to be dominating and sneaking back into Texas over the midsection of the country as that trough will sneak out. By the time we get into early next week and say Tuesday timeframe, this ridge is expected to start to back up, but that opens the door for a backdoor trough that's going to be digging in from the northeast. That's going to bring some cooler temperatures that is going to sneak in along the coastline. And as this ridge will start to amplify and move back, it really deepens and it surges. We're talking some serious heat out here in the desert Southwest, by the time we get to Tuesday, we're talking easily 115 plus, but like I'm seeing 119 in Phoenix coming up on Tuesday, as that deepening ridge will be inundated over much of the West and the Southwest. But out ahead of it, we've got a developing trough that's going to be sneaking in from the Northeast. That'll open the door as this system will swing in from Central America, entering the Gulf of Mexico. And as this swings up and as the ridge backs away, that allows the system to propagate a little bit further northward into the Gulf as we get into the middle of next week. So if we take a look at the latest vertical velocity index from the latest EPS guidance, we can see between June 15th and that June 20th time frame, by the time we get into the middle of next week, yeah, we've got a lot of upward rising motion air in this same area. Here's the Central America, will propagate more into the Gulf of Mexico, and it's showing a strong signal for possible development into the Gulf with a lot of upward rising motion air by the time we get into the middle of next week. And even beyond that, it even amplifies even further and deepens with these darker blues into the Western Gulf, and especially along into Texas and much of the Southeast. So that kind of gives you a depiction of where this tropical surge of moisture, might be heading to. And a lot of the same areas that got inundated and crushed with a lot of rainfall into Texas, into Louisiana and Mississippi, getting into those areas, we could be looking at a tropical type system with a lot of deep tropical moisture heading into your area by the middle of next week, going into next weekend. So as we kind of walk you through, here's kind of taking it back. So this is what your current look would look like. I stopped you here on Saturday, June the 12th. This model basically shows your tropical moisture, or your moisture surge, your precipitable water anomalies here. The reds depict your deep moisture content, and the blues are depicting your your drier air. So what's going to happen here? This is your model from Saturday, June the 12th. There's that upper trough that's going to be swinging across. Is going to be swinging across the off the East Coast by then. That's going to allow some tropical type moisture to filter into the panhandle of Florida and start inundating some of your heavier rainfalls. Start moving into the panhandle of Florida by then, as this deep tropical moisture with a lot of the reds will start getting its act together a little bit higher chance by then as it pulls in. So for the next several days, places like say Jamaica or the Caymans, getting into the Yucatan areas like that, will get some of that tropical type downpours in the heat of the day, a little bit more susceptible for going in today, tomorrow, going into Saturday. But as we take you through Monday, you can definitely see some of the blues entering the picture again back into Jamaica and the Caymans. That'll shut off the precipitation for you down there, as the moisture content will sweep a little bit further south into Florida, as this area of interest along the Central America here will slowly enter further into the Southern Gulf by then. This is your Monday, June the 14th. And so as we go deeper into the week, and as we hit the middle of next week, yeah, we see a lot of this, darker red starting to show up. A lot of it, your deep tropical moisture starting to enter, the Gulf of Mexico by then, as this, area of high pressure with this blue area, that's a lot of dry air going to be sneaking in. You can actually see it better on this particular model. This is your high pressure that's going to be backing up. This is your model from June the 16th time frame. So by then, that ridge of high pressure will be backing up and sinking air up much of the southwest areas, while this high pressure starts to sneak in over the Caribbean. So this low pressure will be trapped in between essentially two high pressures, one off the west and one into the Caribbean, and that is going to be your steering mechanism, where it essentially gets trapped, and that's dependent on who basically wins out. If this high pressure is a little bit stronger, it'll push it a little bit further west. If this one's a little bit stronger and deepens further off into the east, that'll shift it further up, further north. But either way, these areas of interest from Texas to the panhandle of Florida has to be on the lookout for this particular system in the Gulf of Mexico that's going to be coming up by the middle of next week, and especially as we go into next weekend. So as we take you through the latest EPS probability guidance, by the time we get into 7 days out, by the time we get a next Wednesday, next Thursday time frame, yeah, and it shows a pretty good possibility of a tropical type system trying to form into the southern Gulf, getting into the western Gulf by that time frame. If you take a look at the latest EPS, ensemble guidance, they're a little bit spread out as far as the ensembles goes, because what they're factoring in are those two high pressures, one off the west and one down here in the Caribbean, and they're fighting right now. They're trying to fight and figure out, hey, where this thing is trying to go, because they know a system is probably going to be in the western Gulf, and it depends on the strength of those high pressure, which one wins out will depict on the steering currents of where this particular system will go. But don't focus on the actual center of this low pressure, because a lot of these areas are going to be, more or less broad or sheared, and it's going to produce a lot of rainfall to a lot of the areas that just got crushed with some recent rainfall. As we go into the spaghetti models and the latest GFS model, yeah, it kind of implies the same thing. It actually has a little bit higher chances. A lot of the ensemble members pushing it more towards the Texas coastline. That's basically implying this high pressure is going to be a little bit stronger, and that would help push it further into the Texas coastline, yes, by the time we get into next weekend. So if we take a look at the latest precipitable water index from the European model, you can see this deep tropical surge by the time we get into next Friday, the 18th time frame. All the reds, all the purples, even some blue. That's some serious rainfall rates approaching, pulling in that deep tropical moisture over the Gulf, and that will start to eventually impact and head into much of Texas, much of Louisiana, getting into the southern states by the time we get into next weekend. So if we walk you through the latest European model, now this is just one run, but this is the latest run, kind of implies along that same general area from Texas to Louisiana has to be on the lookout for a potentially tropical system by the time we get into next weekend, and it would pull a lot of tropical moisture into that area and some very heavy rainfall by then. And even the latest GFS guidance on this one latest run, basically they're both talking to each other. It's almost the identical track, same time frame, same area, at hinting at a tropical system going to be impacting potentially, say, the Texas coastline, the Louisiana coastline, with a lot of very heavy rainfall. And if this thing does actually make inland, one of my concerns is what they call the brown ocean effect. Now, this is only to take place because these areas got crushed with some very serious heavy rainfall, and much of the south into southern Louisiana, into East Texas, that area would almost act like if it pulls in further inland with the brown ocean effect. And we've seen this with several tropical systems. After it would impact land, after an abundance amount of rainfall, it would still kind of mimic that. It would feel like it would be over water still, and still tend to kind of strengthen or hold its strength together a little bit longer than it normally would in a normal type situation. So even when this thing would make impact on land, yes, there is a possibility it could hold together for an extended period of time, even longer than it normally would, because of that brown ocean effect that could potentially start going to be inundating that area. So I wanted to give you plenty of heads up on this system. We're talking late next week, going into next weekend. So I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video. Definitely leave your comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel to catch the latest update where I protect you before and after the storm.